Hi everyone, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and thanks for joining me today as I create another box. I made this one recently on a Facebook Live, but I was talking about the fact of sometimes it's easier, and you may possibly have 12 by 12 DS or 12 by 12 cardstock in stock, since we now carry it in the catalog again, to create this with a 12 by 12 sheet instead of 8.5 by 11. So I made this one recently. You can find the measurements on my blog at Rachthestamper.com. This one was made with a full sheet of 8.5 by 11. Now I'm going to do one with, it doesn't have to be a full sheet, but with a sheet of 12 by 12. So I am doing this different. This was shaded spruce. I'm going to do this current one in Sahara sand. And basically what we're trying to do is to create a box that we can put full-size cards with envelopes into and then be able to give it as a gift, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with one side, and we're not going to use the whole sheet of this, but we're going to use most of it. We're going to score at on the 12-inch side, we're going to score at 1, 5.5, 6.5, and 11. Okay, then we're going to turn it 90 degrees and we're going to score at 1, 7.25, and 8.25 is where we're going to end it. So I'm scoring at 8.25, but I'm basically just trimming this piece off. So you essentially need a piece of cardstock that measures 12 by 8.25. So I'm going to go ahead and just trim off this little extra piece right here. So 8.25. All right. So this you could cut this off originally and then make a card or keep it for scraps or something. Now we are going to need our trimmer because we're still going to decorate this piece. So again, this measures 12 by 8.25. So we're going to fold on all the score lines. And we are going to, since this is cardstock, we're going to want to reinforce this with our bone folder. So just go over it. And then the same thing for the long-sided pieces. And we're going to decorate this. And this would be a great gift to give someone as a thank you gift. Maybe if they gave you a really nice present or a gift card, or watched your kids while you ran errands, or helped you out, you know, a million other ways that moms help each other out. I'm just cutting these up to the score line. You could send this to someone or give it to someone that you know that has been sick, and maybe some people were kind enough to bring over some food or something of that nature. So many, many ways that you could use this box. Okay, so basically all I did was trimmed up all the flaps. I am going to go ahead back and I'm going to just give these just a little miter cut on each side. A little angle cut here. Please pardon my fingers. My last project I was using yellow, so I look like I'm developing jaundice hands. I'm just trimming these off just a smidge on all of them. Kind of makes the box close a little bit nicer, makes it a little bit more square. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, and you can skip this step if you want, but I'm going to layer a piece of powder pink cardstock and then layer a piece of the Tropical Oasis DSP. I did cut out a little bit of stuff ahead of time. I did a little die cutting, so this wouldn't be a super duper long video. One other thing I would suggest is you definitely want to use a nice strong adhesive when you close this box up, so you know it'll stay. And you don't have to worry about falling apart on whoever you give it to. So you could use liquid glue. The only thing with liquid glue is you do have to hold it just to make sure that it finishes adhering. I like to, when I'm doing boxes like this, to use some sort of double-sided tape. So I'm using tear and tape. You could use whatever you have. I have also, for some things, used Sookwang or Be Creative tape because they do come in different widths, and tear and tape only comes in a 1/4 inch width. So before we proceed, I'm going to measure this to see what it needs to be. Not in centimeters, Rach. Go back to inches. So this measures 6.25. So we're going to do 6 by 4. So we're going to do 6 by 4.25. So I have my piece of powder pink. So I'm going to just start by cutting this in half, and that way you could use the other half for a card. You could make a card with this, so it'd be nice. And then we said by 6. So I'm just going to trim this down. So this will layer Oops, come on. Right on top, just like that. So very pretty. And then I'm going to grab a piece of my Tropical DSP. Let's see if there's anything that has a nice pinkish. Ooh, the Woodies. That's a great one. I love that paper. So cute. How about we could either use the Tropical Fruit. Ooh, these leaves are really pretty too. I don't know. I think I might go with the leaves. So with this one, what I'm going to do is, so we cut this down again to, I think we said 4 1/4. So I'm going to trim this to 4 by 5 3/4. That way it's a generous piece. It covers the entire thing. So I'm going to go ahead and trim to 4. You could also use the rest of this. If you have signed up for my DSP share, you could use the scraps of this to make yourself some cards that you could put into this box, or you could just grab some cards that you might have handy. So we're going to layer that on top, just like so. Now I did pre-cut some flowers, so they may or may not necessarily go with what I've chosen here as the DSP. So if not, no worries, we'll figure something out. What I'm going to do though is, oh, you could even do the flamingos. That will be super fun too. Just easy like that. I probably, if I would do this, I would use darker, so maybe Flirty Flamingo or Mellow Mambo. But I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the box. You could also, if you wanted to, you could decorate the sides of the box, but I think sometimes if you're in a bit of a rush or you're kind of just trying to save, you know, this is a very generous gift. So I think unless you really, really loved the person you're sending it to and you know they're going to use it for more of a keepsake box, I would probably just do the lid. So same, making sure we have glue all the way to the edges. And then same on this one. You definitely want to make sure you get your edges so nothing peels up. Okay. And layer this down. Make sure it's nice and evenly spaced, which is why I like to use the liquid glue, because you can kind of wiggle it around, as you could see, if it wasn't lined up correctly. So just making sure that's nice on there. Now all I'm going to do is just take off all of my tear and tape strips, which I don't know why I'm using that. I usually use my spatula or my take your pick tool. And the other thing, I'm hoping that I picked the correct side, because sometimes your box has a nicer side than the other, but clearly this is going to be the top since I've already layered that down and didn't check. So if your box could be slightly wonky, just kind of hold it up and fold it and see what side looks better before you start putting it together. So this flap here is going to go to the bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the front flap on, and you can kind of just like gently put these in place until you make sure you have it the way you want it. This one's going to go to the bottom, and same here. All right, and I'm going to make sure before that this folds nicely, just being sure. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Same here, just pressing in. There we go. So we have our nice box. So now that everything is sealed up tightly, I'm going to go back and just make sure. And I usually do this with my bone folder. Just press those flaps in place. Tend to do it for all of them. Okay, so there you go. You have a nice, pretty box. Nice enough just like that. Then what you're going to do, you do want to make sure before you finish and you tie everything and get it all set up that you do want to put your cards in there. So you can see they fit in there really, really nicely. So this box is a really snug fitting box. So honestly, you probably don't need ribbon. You could add it if you'd like. You could even do it, you know, vertically or horizontally. Just depends on which way you want to do it. You could certainly add ribbon to it, but you don't need to. So for this one, I'm going to skip the ribbon, but we are going to decorate this. So what I did was, again, I didn't really plan on what paper I was going to use, so I went ahead and cut some things out. So I stamped and cut the hibiscus. I did 2 of them. One's Mellow Mambo, one is Mango Melody. Just did a few leaves. We do have to still stamp a sentiment. So the leaves do have, I don't know if you can see that or not, but they do have an embossing detail on them when you cut them out, so that's really nice. And then I just cut out some little tiny flowers. That's why I wanted that, to cut out the center. So I have some little flowers we could add to it. I did cut leaves in several different colors. Same thing along with the flowers. my unfavorite color, which is Rococo Rose. I figured I could add a few little flowers of that. I don't really know why it's my unfavorite, but it's just, I don't know, it's just for me, a very strange color of pink. Pinkish, purplish, whatever-ish you want to call it. So let me just pop the rest of these, and then we'll just add, I don't know what we're going to add to this, so don't worry, we're not going to add all of this. You could also, if you wanted to, depending on how you wanted to build out your flower, you could add something to the center. You could take your flowers, kind of stack them together, and make a bigger flower from it, because you do have multiple sizes, so keep that in mind. But let's stamp something for this. How about thank you? We'll just make thank you, and then we're going to cut that out. We'll make it a smaller something or other. I'm going to stamp it, and I'm going to cut it out with I think I'm going to do one of the smaller layering circles. We use the stitch nested labels for the other one. We could even use a little oval. That'll be cute. Let's do the oval. So we're going to stamp this, and we're going to cut it out with the oval. Only thing we have to decide is, I don't want to do something that's too crazy since we have a lot of colors going on here. So I think I'm going to stick with one of the darker. And to me, this seems like a combination between Shaded Spruce and Garden Green. So I'm going to keep it kind of calm and go with Garden Green. Let me just stamp the thank you. Let me try that one more time. One thing about this stamp set, just in case when you are stamping things and it kind of looks a little off, it definitely has a little bit of a texture to the words, so they're not smooth. So if you're looking at it and you're thinking, gosh, that doesn't look, it is supposed to look a little bit, just not like a smooth flowing line. It does have a little texture to it. So I'm going to just cut this out with my smallest layering oval. Another thing you could do in avoiding using a piece of DSP if you didn't have one is you could use the, I believe it's called weave, textured weave folder, and you could emboss a piece of paper or a piece of regular cardstock and layer it on top, which would be really pretty. So we have thank you. Let's see. I think we're not going to be able to use this lovely hibiscus because it does kind of conflict with it. So I think I'm going to end up going with the mango, and this is a little bit of Flirty Flamingo. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to take my flower. I'm just going to kind of curl a little bit of the petals. Just taking my bone folder. Be careful because you don't want to rip it. All right, and then what I'm going to do is one other thing. I'm going to grab, what ink did we use? I think we used Petal Pink. So I'm going to grab my Petal Pink ink pad, and I'm going to grab a sponge, and I'm just going to sponge the edge. And I feel like I might have had a slightly different color in here because this is looking almost a little orange. Maybe I use this for something else. Yep, it's okay. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of put a little bit in the center. Then I'm going to take my Wink of Stella, and I'm going to just kind of get the center of the flower there because it kind of does bleed out the color a little bit. Wink of Stella acts similarly to a blender pen. So make sure if you use it and you're going to a lighter color that you do in fact clean it off. All right, so we have this. We can add this to the thank you. You know what? I'm going to do a little something with this. I don't really know what color we have here. Kind of a pinkish orangish. And we'll just sponge that a little bit. Add that there. We can add a couple of these little leaves behind it. I know they are a little bit tiny, but they still are pretty cute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build these together with some glue dots, and then we'll add this one probably with some dimensionals. So I'm just going to take the little tiny end of this here, put it onto that, kind of just set it together, see what I like. We could add a teeny, and actually when I have a flower that's really tiny like this, I tend to kind of like to roll the glue dot up a little bit on itself. That way you can't really see it in the back. So you can kind of just form it into a little tiny ball. Put that behind one of the petals. That way it doesn't show. Put Put that there. Also kind of give it a little bit of height to it, which is fun as well. So we have that. Put this back here. I'm going to just grab a little glue dot with the leaf of this, or the stem. Kind of stick this behind like that. And I don't want to add too much because I feel like sometimes these are kind of the times when you could do a little bit of overkill. And I'm going to leave it just like that because I don't want to overkill this with 15 different colors. And then after the fact, I think, what did I do? Rachel, what did you do? So I'm going to put this on with some dimensionals, which I just had. Here they are a moment ago. Put this on with a couple dimensionals. Oops, need to snip another one. And I'm going to put some liquid glue onto the back of this. And also some liquid glue on the back of this. I'm going to put a little bit on the front as well. That way you can stick it to the back of that flower. So now I'm going to hold on to that while I pull these backings off so I don't put this in the wrong spot. Bring all this together. Again, like I said, you certainly could add some ribbon if you wanted to, but you don't really have to. So I'm going to just press this down, especially because I have this one spot that has liquid glue. I kind of want it to stick more to the hibiscus, but if it sticks to the box, as long as it sticks to something, that's the important part. And again, you have kind of the curl up with these a little bit. It also has lots of other die cuts in here. So you have pineapple, top of a pineapple, you have regular leaves, you have a smaller, kind of looks like a plumeria flower you could use. You could use the palm tree. So there's lots of other things that you could stick onto this box if you wanted to decorate it with something other than the hibiscus. But I think it's really, really pretty. Thank you guys very much for joining me. You can find all of the measurements for this box on my blog, which is rachthestamper.com. You can also find this for the other box. Where is it? Which is here. That's another post that I did as well and did a video for this too. So if you have a little bit of confusion, you can certainly check YouTube and you will see the replay video of this. But this is also a similar box. So just two different ones. This one's a little bit wider. This one is more cut exactly to fit the card. And again, we didn't have to add any ribbon to this because this box is pretty spot on with its dimensions. It's really, really nice and snug. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email at rachthestamper.com. I would love to hear your comments, so please feel free to leave me a comment. You can send me a comment via email as well. And if you have a need, I would really appreciate it. Use this host code to shop in my online store. If it's after the fact, there's usually a new host code posted to my blog as well. But I always send out a thank you card and usually a little thank you gift with it. So thank you very much for your support. I hope you all have a wonderful day.